let's talk about this clap thing. I'm just gonna lay my cards on the table there and say, I don't like it. I don't like it one little bit. So that might make me some kind of recalcitrant character, or like unfeeling type. Some kind of. Some of you might think it makes you like the devil incarnate, or like a heartless beast, or like the wicked witch of the west all rolled up with the evils of the north, south, and the east. But I've been to hospital. I've had my fingers broken and my thumbs and my wrists and my ribs and my feet, but never once was I inclined to go outside and applaud an empty street, to say thank you to these people. Because is that how you say thank you? Is that how you normally do it? When the babysitter's there and you're ready to pay them and ready to go, you think, oh no, right now I'm just going to go outside and clap an empty street. I just don't think that's how it works normally. I'll throw an olive branch out here. It's kind of nice, I think it's kind of prevailing on your niceness. I don't think it's that nice for some reasons I'm about to discuss, but let's think about how nice it is. So if it is so nice, do you think that if you were cooking or you were on the loo or you were, putting the kids to bed and you missed the appointed time of the time when you're supposed to be clapping the street, do you think you would then go out and do it anyway at like 20 past or an hour later? Or why does it have to be in the evening anyway? Would you do it the next morning? Would you do it 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning? Would you do it on your own basically? No, it's kind of like a herd mentality thing. And who told you to do it? How did this sort of clap get so contagious that it spread around the world just like that in just a matter of days or weeks? It seems crazy to me. You guys, it just doesn't add up, does it? It's not the way the thing works. Let's have a think about the evening thing. Why does it have to be the evening? Is that because it's a sort of witching hour? Is that sort of like when people are sort of a little bit more relaxed and maybe a bit more suggestible? Like you take your date out on an evening because you think you might get your wicked way with her at that time, or maybe that's what the government's doing to us if you think about it cleverly. The other thing I want to talk about there is like the sort of dissolution of the boundary. Like, who's telling you to do this? Like, the television is telling us to clap at an appointed time, basically. You haven't come up with yourself. You've never clapped the fire brigade. You've never clapped the Coast Guard. The health workers are dealing with contagious people all the time. Last year during the flu season, you weren't out there clapping. I know you weren't. I never heard no pots and pans clanging in the street. It's a new thing. Why now? Why not last year? Are we going to do it next year? Are we always going to do it when the armed services or the fire? It's a strange thing. It kind of reminds me of, when you see sporting events and people are clapping the television or cheering the television, and with that you can say, okay, well they're watching an exciting event and they're getting caught up in the moment, which is fine. Maybe they are, but also they sort of exhort and regale and insult the players, don't they? Like they give them a hard time for through the medium of the television. They're not even present. So it's not only that they're excited, like you're watching the football or the tennis or something, and you get excited in terms of what's going on the screen. There's actually kind of an interaction, and if you ask any of them people consciously, they'll be saying, oh no, I know they can't hear me, I know that I'm not really there. Some of us might like to think there's like a field of consciousness in which we interact, but if that's not the case, and I know that we can all agree that we do not think we can be heard, so that sporting relationship with the television is somehow, I think, important in this context, because the television is now asking us to believe in that our applause is being heard by somebody. The first time I heard this kind of notion was when a soccer player called George Best died, and instead of doing a minute's silence, people applauded. And I thought, well, that's kind of nice. Like this time, it's kind of nice to applaud the health service if they're going out of the way to help people. The health service will all be agreeable people, all doing their best. But it's strange to applaud someone when they're not there, isn't it? I mean, give them the flowers when they're here. Don't wait until they're like dead and gone and then start applauding them. The minute silence used to be a kind of introspective period of reflection where you could think about what that person did, about your own mortality, about maybe a way of living your life, about remembering that person. Offering applause, obviously it's beautiful, and it means that people remember that person, in this case George Best, fondly, but you can't interact with him once they're gone. And in the same way, you can't interact with the health service. It's not a group mentality. It's not like our group is going to applaud your group. No, interact personally. If someone does something nice for you, respond to them personally. Do both if you must, but don't do it because the government or the television says so, and dissolve the boundaries of your own reality, There's something mad about it. I want to look further into this. So let's talk about the Asch conformity experiment. So in this experiment, people were given simple questions to answer. And there were a group of actors also taking part. And so there was only one individual in each setting who was really answering the questions. The others were actors. And they were given a simple question that said, is it A, B, C, or D? Now, all the actors went first and they said, nah, they gave the wrong answer, deliberately, ridiculously wrong answer. And a lot of the time, the person sitting there was swayed, 37% of the time. 25% of people never ever conformed to the group because they knew the actors were wrong. But 75% of answers given were wrong. So if you're not prepared to go outside and clap an empty street by yourself, then I'm going to ask you the question, why are you doing it with the group? And I'm going to refer you back to the Asch conformity experiment. Another thing we could look at is the Milgram experiment, where people obeyed authority to the point where they were giving fatal electric shocks. Now, they didn't really give them. The sort of subject of the experiment was set up so that they thought they were given electric shocks. They were told, instructed to give increasing shocks of increasing voltage. And a lot of them did it to near fatal levels of 300 volts. And at that point at 300 volts, they were, all the time they were giving the shocks, they were hearing a sound recording of what they thought the victim was being subjected to. And at 300 volts, they stopped making a noise and they still gave the 300 volt shot. And a number of them gave 450 volts, gave the fatal one. And it was a large number. I think it was getting up to 2/3. So I'll put the details in the box, but these experiments show the extent to which people can be manipulated by the group and by authority. And I think we need to look very carefully about the way in which we're responding to both government and media in the way we respond to this crisis. And it's not just with relation to the clap, although the clap is very important because it's instructive as to how our beliefs and our responses are being conducted, because it also shows that because we don't do that on our own. We don't go out in the morning and clap the street. We don't go out 20 minutes later if we miss it and clap the street. We don't, generally speaking, bang pots and pans. So we need to think about why we're doing that and extrapolate from that how much more are we being manipulated by these entities and powerful agencies of government and media. I think it's well worth exploring. Is there anything else I want to say about that? I don't know. I think that might be enough. But let's give that some thought. All right, take care.